Hey, thanks for coming out this evening. I obviously, you can guess by our surroundings that we're in a new and different location. That's okay. The other room was being used to good end, and so we have moved into this room, and we'll make do. It's actually a nicer room, so that's okay. Tonight's lecture is on fire safety, fire suppression, what is a fire, how to prevent one, and how to fight one being fire. During a disaster, the first priorities for professional firefighters are likely to be taking care of major fires. They may be hampered by impassable roads or other obstacles, and they either can't or won't get to your small fire. So it's imperative upon us to be prepared for small fires that may occur in our home or in the places around, and keep a small fire from becoming a big fire. It would be terrible in the event of an emergency of an earthquake or tornado or some other kind of natural disaster that might cause a down power line or something like that, that an otherwise small fire that could have been caught while it's small and not to cause much damage, to roar out of control and burn up everything we own. So it's important for us to learn how to put out fires and shut off utilities and keep fires from spreading, those kind of things, so that we can help ourselves in the event of an emergency. First of all, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what fire is. Fire is an exothermic chemical reaction. We don't often think of fire as being a chemical reaction, but that's exactly what it is. That chemical reaction requires something that is referred to as the fire triangle. The fire triangle has three sides. Give it the fire triangle. Does anybody happen to know what those three sides are? Yes?
Fuel, oxygen.
Fuel.
That's
oxygen.
one. Fuel's one. Oxygen's the other. And the last one is?
Hydrogen?
Heat.
Heat. Heat, fuel, and oxygen. Those three things in almost equal amounts are what's required to produce fire. Remove any one of those, the fuel, the heat, or the oxygen, and fires go out. I mean, think about it simply. If you've ever played with a candle or something like that, you put a candle inside a jar and put the lid on the jar, suddenly the candle will go out. The reason it goes out is because it uses up all the fuel, all the oxygen that is left in that little container once you've closed it, and then the fire will go out. Simply put, that's how all fires are fought, by either removing the oxygen, removing the fuel, or removing the heat, so that it can no longer have a chemical reaction and prevent fire. If you were to look at a candle very closely, when the candle is burning, you wonder, well, how come the wick just doesn't burn up really quickly? That's because the fire really isn't touching the candle. The heat from the flame melts the wax wicks up the wick, and then the wax burns and it melts to a point where it becomes vaporized. That vapor burns, and then we have fire. In fact, most of the fires we see or we know about are not actually like wood that's on fire in a campfire. It's not actually the wood that is burning. The heat that is produced turns the wood into a vapor. That vapor then will burn. So now that we know a little bit about the fire triangle, let's talk a little bit about how fires are classified. There are different kinds of fire. One basic kind of fire would be, they're classified, by the way, A, B, C, and D. An A fire, B fire, D fire. There are basically four classifications of fire: A, B, C, and D. And those are basically about what kinds of things burn. An A classification of fire is the things you would normally think of: paper, cloth, wood, rubber, most plastics, those kinds of things. Those are A fires. A B classification of fire is flammable liquids, such as oil or gasoline or those kind of things, combustible liquids, charcoal lighter, kerosene. Those are B fires. C fires are fires that are energized by electrical things. Electric motors, electric wires, sparking, those are fires caused by that. But usually, by the way, once you turn the electricity off, they become a Class A fire. So they're a Class C fire until you turn the electricity off. Once you turn the electricity off and let's say the motor or something else is burning, then it becomes a Class A fire usually, or B. Then the last one is the most difficult one, and that is a Class D fire. So if I've covered paper and plate and wood and kerosene and gasoline and electrical, what do you think the last one would be? Anybody have a guess?
I don't know.
Combustible metals. Anybody know what a combustible metal might be? We start fires with them every once in a while.
But steel.
Yeah, but what is the
Magnesium.
Magnesium. Magnesium is a combustible metal, as well as aluminum, titanium,
Sodium.
So some of those oxides, those are also combustible metals. In fact, most rockets, dry rockets, are made out of combustible metals. The good thing about the great thing about them is they burn really hot. The bad thing about them is they're very difficult to put out. So those are the fires: A, B, C, and D. Okay. So what do we have to fight fires with? Well, your standard fire extinguisher, right? If you have a fire extinguisher, you should have one in your house or apartment or in your garage, or you've seen them on the walls. Your standard fire extinguisher. By the way, there are several different types of fire extinguishers. We'll talk about those a little bit in detail later on. There's also sometimes what we have called interior standpipes. They're basically they're hoses that look like firefighting equipment in some apartments and things like that for lay people to use to fight fires with. There are fire hoses attached to the wall, those kind of things. The other thing we can use to fight a fire is really something that's pretty easy, and that's confinement. Remember I was talking about having a jar with a candle in it, and you put a lid on it, and the fire goes out? Well, what causes that fire, to fight that fire, is containment. If you contain a fire, and it uses up all the oxygen in an area, the fire will go out. And then you can get all kinds of other things to fight fires with. On the fire lines, they use, swimming pool water, a bucket brigade, sand or soft dirt, or as simple as a garden hose is something that we can use to fight a fire with. You can fight them with whatever you have at hand.